We will begin this course with a discussion on the importance of seeds. How important are seeds that we have to devote a full semester to study them? To answer those questions, we need to first define what seeds are. Seeds are fertilized, mature ovules resulting from the sexual reproduction of plants. All seeds, regardless of whether they are dicots or monocots, will have three major components. We have the embryo, the nutritive tissue, as well as the seed coat. The nutritive tissue can be in the form of cotyledon, just like what you see here, or endosperm. The embryo is the multicellular organism within the seed that develops into a new plant. The nutritive tissue serves as the source of food for the embryo when it starts germinating. The seed coat is the protective layer that encases both the nutritive tissue and the embryo. It protects the seed from elements and allows it to remain viable for longer periods of time. If you think about it, a seed is a fully functional and viable biological system capable of differentiating into an entirely new individual given the right conditions. It is such that if you plant an acorn, which is a seed of an oak tree, you eventually get a tree. Animals are also considered functional biological systems, except that if you plant a cow, all you'd get is a dead cow. The importance of seeds to the human civilization started during the agricultural revolution some 10 to 15,000 years ago. The agricultural revolution started in the Neolithic period or the New Stone Age. This is the period in human history when ancient humans have mastered the use of stones to make tools with edges that they use in their daily lives. Because the agricultural revolution occurred during the Neolithic period, this event is also known as the Neolithic Revolution. Before the Neolithic period, sheets of ice covered large parts of Europe, North America, South America, and small parts of Asia during the last ice age. The northern and the southern hemisphere likely look very much like what is depicted in these models of the Earth's topology 18,000 years ago. The white patches that you see are the continental ice, and the green patches are land above sea level. Beside these two models are depictions of how the Earth's topology look like today. You can clearly see that the ice sheets are significantly smaller now than they were 18,000 years ago. So during that time, you can imagine that vegetation are most likely sparse because much of the Earth was covered in ice. So whatever plants that were surviving then must be really, really hardy. Because there are not much food plants, ancient humans relied heavily on hunting big animals like maybe the mammoth or wild deer for food. And then 10,000 to 15,000 years ago, as the Neolithic period or New Stone Age began, the Earth entered into a period of warming that melted glaciers and exposed new lands. With the melting of ice, fresh bodies of water started appearing. Water combined with the warming of Earth's atmosphere gave life to plants that spread quickly across the land. One of the regions where an abundance of wild food plants occurred following the warming of the Earth's atmosphere is the Middle East. This region, which is also known as the Fertile Crescent, extends from the Persian Gulf to the modern-day Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, and northern Egypt. The fertile lands brought an abundance of wild cereals like wheat and barley, as well as fruits like olives and dates. Because of the abundance of food plants, ancient humans started gathering and devoted lesser time to hunting, although they still did hunt. They soon realized that the seeds they gathered can be stored and planted. This cycle of harvesting or gathering, storing, and planting of wild food plants gave way to the early forms of agriculture. This early form of agriculture then encouraged the ancient humans to give up their nomadic lifestyles for more permanent settlements. The early settlements then gave rise to the first civilizations. This is the reason why the Fertile Crescent is also known as the cradle of civilization. From then on, seeds as a direct or indirect source of food has been an integral component of the human civilization. In the modern times, seeds are still used as a direct source of food for humans and feed for animals. Examples of staple food from a seed source include cereals like wheat, rice, and corn. Rice is a known staple for 1/3 of the world population. Various legumes and vegetable seeds are also used as direct sources of food. Examples include peanuts, peas, lentils, chickpeas, soybeans, squash, watermelon, and sunflower seeds. Seeds can also be used as indirect sources of food like spices, condiments, cooking oil, and beverages. Seeds of black pepper, cumin, cardamom, and anise are good examples of seeds that are processed as spices. Seeds of corn, soybean, peanut, and sesame are good sources of edible oil. If you go to Walmart, you will see a whole selection of edible or cooking oils that are sourced from seeds of many other plants. Coffee, chocolate, and beer are products of processing seeds of various plants. In countries like Japan, China, and Korea, seeds of cereals like corn and barley are also processed as tea. Aside from direct and indirect sources of food and feed, seeds are also important for fiber production and as raw materials for commercial products like essential oils, soap, and medicinal supplements. In some cultures, seeds are important parts of customs and traditions. The Vidai in India, for example, makes use of rice seeds. The Vidai ceremony symbolizes the final stage of a wedding where the bride's parents bid farewell to their daughter with her son-in-law. As the bride steps out of her parents' house to be part of her husband's family, she pauses at the doorstep to throw a handful of coins and rice back over her head 3 times. This action symbolizes the wishes of the bride for the house she lived in to remain prosperous. The coins signify wealth, while the rice symbolizes health. In the Philippines, native farming tribes known as Ifugaos in the northern provinces of the islands have this carved wooden figure known as the bulul. Bululs are used in ceremonies associated with rice production and with healing. The bulul is treated with care and respect to avoid the risk of the spirits of the ancestors bringing sickness to the family. The figures are placed together with rice in the house or granaries to bring a plentiful harvest. The bulul is important to Ifugaos because they believe that these structures can protect and multiply rice and help make the harvest abundant. Given the many uses of seeds that I just enumerated and how seeds are integral to the lives of different people in many ways, I think we can all agree that seeds are important. In fact, seeds are so important that there have been so many international initiatives to ensure that humanity is protected from massive seed loss, which can lead to starvation due to global crisis. What are examples of this global crisis? In the last century, we already had 2 world wars, and in the aftermath of those wars, there was massive famine across the globe simply because crops were destroyed during the years of war. So before World War II, there was a very strong initiative to collect seeds of various plants by the Russian agronomist, botanist, and geneticist by the name of Nikolai Vavilov. His seed collection, which was composed of more than 250,000 samples of seeds, roots, and fruits, paved the way to the establishment of the Leningrad Seed Bank in Russia. During World War II, this seed bank was diligently preserved and protected throughout the 28-month-long siege of Leningrad by the Germans. To save the collection in the seed bank, a group of scientists boxed up cross-sections of seeds and moved them to the basement of the institute. Then these scientists barricaded themselves in with the seeds, preparing to defend them from rats, freezing weather, and also from desperately hungry Russians. By the end of the siege in the spring of 1944, 9 of these scientists had died of starvation despite the availability of edible seeds in the institute. They just plainly refused to eat the contents of the seed bank that they were guarding. One of them was Dmitry Ivanov. He was the head of the rice collection. Mr. Ivanov painstakingly conserved several thousand packs of rice while gradually dying of malnutrition. After the war, Russia rebuilt its agriculture using the many precious seeds that survived from the gene bank and went on to breed crops that would later feed millions of people. In this day and age, we are faced with different but equally destructive crises that can potentially lead to total crop failure. What are these challenges? One of them is climate change. Already we are experiencing the effects of shifts in climate. Temperature extremes are making winters colder and longer. In tropical regions of the earth, typhoons are stronger and occur more frequently that we end up dealing with prolonged and heavy flooding. We have more drought spells and occurrence of heat waves. So what is mankind's response to prepare for the worst effects of climate change? Seed preservation. Even as we speak, scientists from all around the world are actively collecting seeds of both cultivated and wild plant species that may have the ability to survive extreme environmental conditions. One of the results of these efforts is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault in Norway. This is a long-term seed storage facility that is located deep inside a mountain on a remote island in Svalbard archipelago, halfway between mainland Norway and the North Pole. This location was chosen to store the world's largest collection of crop diversity because the permafrost and the thick rocks in these mountains can ensure that the seed samples will remain frozen even without power. The vault is the ultimate insurance policy for the world's food supply, offering options for future generations to overcome the challenges of climate change and population growth. It will secure millions of seeds, representing every important crop variety available in the world today. So now that we've established that seeds are important, it makes sense that we study them. We try to learn everything possible about seeds so that we can produce and use them more efficiently and effectively and improve their characteristics if necessary. Additionally, seeds or parts of seeds are convenient forms of living materials. We can use them as models to study the fundamentals of life processes in plants.
To summarize, seeds are fertilized ovules resulting from the sexual reproduction of plants. Regardless of whether a seed is produced by a monocot or a dicot plant, seeds will generally have an embryo, a nutritive tissue, and a seed coat. The embryo is the multicellular organism that will differentiate into a new plant. The nutritive tissue will provide the embryo the nourishment it needs when it starts growing. The seed coat is the protective layer that encases both the embryo and the nutritive tissue. Seeds are one of the key drivers of the first agricultural revolution, which laid the foundation of human civilization. They are an important source of food, feed, fiber, and fuel, and constitute an integral part of cultures and traditions. Because of the importance of seeds to mankind, we study them so that we can produce and use them more efficiently and effectively, and if necessary, improve them. Additionally, seeds or parts of seeds are convenient forms of living materials. We can use them as models to study the fundamentals of life processes in plants. Next week, we will start our discussion on the flowering process in plants, which is covered in Module 1 of our syllabus. In the meantime, there is a short quiz in Canvas that will be available to you until Friday, so make sure that you complete the quiz.